What are they thinking? The straight facts about the risk-taking, social networking, still developing teen brain by Aaron White and Scott Swartzwelder continued. Studies have shown that high fructose corn syrup doesn't sufficiently suppress the release of ghrelin, nor does it increase leptin levels as much as the sugar naturally found in foods does. So, foods containing high fructose corn syrup make the brain feel less full than foods containing other forms of sugar. This leads to overeating. Ultimately, it is best to fuel the body with natural sugars. Complex carbohydrates, such as starch from vegetables, are long chains of sugar molecules. Because they need to be broken down to produce simple sugars, they cause slower rises in blood sugar levels and are less likely to lead to insulin resistance and its consequences. Extra sugar also means extra calories, which cause weight gain unless exercise is increased dramatically. Research indicates that there is a clear relationship between the amount of sugar kids consume and the likelihood that they will become overweight or obese. The amount of energy in the foods we eat is measured in calories. In the US, the word calorie on food label actually means kilocalorie or 1000 calories. Depending upon how much a person weighs, how old they are, how much they exercise, what medications they take, and other factors, the body requires somewhere between 2000 and 3000 calories to charge through a typical day. When more calories are consumed than are needed, body weight goes up, and when more calories are burned than are taken in, stored fuel is burned and body weight goes down. But relying too heavily on average numbers can be misleading. For example, a teenager wrestler will probably burn lots more calories than the head of the chess club. And the chess fanatic might actually gain weight while consuming the recommended number of calories. Rather than using just body weight to assess whether one is eating too much or too little, the Centers for Disease Control recommend using a measure called Body Mass Index, or MBI. And it's calculated according to height and weight. And the formula is just for age and sex. Is adjusted for age and sex. Hormonal changes that jumpstart sexual maturation are often influenced by the amount of fat stored in the body. The adult female body requires enough stored nutrients to sustain a healthy pregnancy. Studies show that the brain monitors levels of leptin, the hormone released by fat cells, to estimate how much stored energy the female has available. When an appropriate level of leptin is reached, the hypothalamus swings into action and puberty begins. The massive number of overweight and obese young people may help explain why children are entering puberty earlier than they did a century ago. While puberty and adolescence overlap, they are not the same. Puberty, which stems from the Latin word pubes, hair, refers to hormone changes that result in a physical growth spurt and development of primary sex characteristics such as sperm, menstruation. And secondary ones, pubic hair, changes in distribution of muscle and fat and facial hair. Puberty is the physical preparation that allows a developing person to mate and procreate. Hormones are chemical messengers that affect cells in the body by plugging into special receptors on those cells. They are released into the bloodstream by glands and taken everywhere that blood goes. Just as they contain receptors for neurotransmitters, many neurons also contain receptors for hormones, which means that along with initiating physical changes, hormones will affect the brain and therefore thinking and mood as well. Research suggests that females often experience a dip in mood in the week leading up to menstruation as both estrogen and progesterone levels decline. Girls tend to feel best in the middle of a cycle, and that anxiety and depression tend to creep in as the cycle comes to a close. On the flip side, girls do better on tests of memory, concentration, motor coordination, and reaction time during the third week of their cycle. In short, the monthly cascade of hormonal changes does more than prepare the body for pregnancy. It also influences how women think, feel, and act. If you or another first-order relative, parent or sibling, is an alcoholic, it doubles your teen's chances of becoming an alcoholic. Alcohol abuse during adolescence is associated with reduction in the size of the amygdala, which is involved in assessing threat and interpreting emotion, and in the corpus callosum, which carries messages from one side of the brain to the other. Research with rats suggests that cells harmed by alcohol during adolescence only partially recover with prolonged abstinence. The negative effects of alcohol on white matter development explains why long-term alcohol abuse during adolescence produces such marked and lasting impairment in thinking and reasoning. Research shows that marijuana use among US teens and young adults remains very popular, and the level of THC, the primary psychoactive ingredient in marijuana, has risen markedly over the years, making the current marijuana in use more potent. While marijuana is not addictive in the classic sense, users do not develop the kind of craving that alcohol produces, and the signs of physical dependence are far less extreme. With heavy and repeated use, signs of physical dependence can emerge. Heavy and repeated marijuana use can cause teens to suffer academically and withdraw from social activities that don't revolve around pot. Parents who smoke or are former potheads should talk with their teens about the drug's potential dangers. Next to marijuana, prescription narcotics like Oxycontin, Pacolet, and Vicodin are the most common vehicles for teens to get high. Narcotics pain medications are synthetic variants of morphine and codeine, which come from the poppy plant. Their primary clinical use is to blunt our perception of pain, but they also produce intense euphoria by activating opiate receptors in the brain. Narcotic pain medications are highly addictive. Because the opiate receptors in our brains change rapidly in the presence of the drug, it doesn't take long for dependence to emerge. Once that happens, the brain is hooked. Whenever the drug is not present, the opiate receptors register a state of deprivation, and the user is highly motivated to get that next fix. This vicious circle is very hard to escape. Opiates can kill a person with one dose. If our brain's opiate receptors receive too much stimulation from an outside source, they can actually shut down the parts of the brain that keep us breathing. Fortunately, there are drugs such as naloxone, Narcan, that can reverse this life-threatening effect, but it has to be administered quickly after an overdose. The main psychoactive ingredient in the cold medicine is dextromethorphan, or DXM, which is readily available at the local drugstore and in most home medicine cabinets in products such as Robitussin and Coricidin and NyQuil. The effects of DXM vary depending on the dose and range, from mild stimulation and perception distortions, changes in how things look and sound, to hallucinatory out-of-body experiences. Ritalin and Adderall are stimulants and were once used primarily for weight loss or speed rush. While these drugs have a focusing effect on people with ADHD, they keep those without the disorder awake and alert for long periods of time. Stimulants can be safe and effective if prescribed properly and used in strict adherence to the prescription. They can be addictive in part because they cause dopamine to be released in the reward system. If taken as prescribed, the drug is released slowly and does not produce the kind of dopamine-induced euphoria that can lead to addictive behavior. Salvia divinorum, generally known as salvia, is a plant from the mint family that produces hallucinogenic effects. In some parts of the country, it has joined the growing list of substances whose use or possession is illegal, although it remains legal in some states. MDMA, or ecstasy. This is a synthetic drug chemically similar to both methamphetamine and the hallucinogen mescaline. Its danger arises from two factors. One, it creates very positive feelings of interpersonal openness and connection, which can be a strong motivator for repeated use. And two, it kills brain cells by damaging the serotonin producing neurons. Methamphetamine is one of the most seductive and addictive drugs available in the world today. It's a potent and highly addictive stimulant which causes an increase in the release of norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. While most people think of it as a dangerous street drug, it is also prescribed as a medication under the name disoxin to treat ADHD or as a weight loss aid. Its most common use, however, is recreational. Cocaine. Cocaine has a glorious, powerful, and deadly hold on American culture. When a young teenager snorts a line of coke, he will immediately feel like Leonardo DiCaprio standing on the prow of the Titanic with the wind in his face, exclaiming, "I am the king of the world." By the time he comes crashing down from the glorious high, he will feel more like the protagonist in the Kafka's The Metamorphosis, just after he's turned into a cockroach. Cocaine powder is created from the leaves of the cocoa plant and acts as a potent stimulant and appetite suppressant. Aside from the feelings of euphoria, it also stimulates the frontal lobes, causing increased focus and attention. Crack can be smoked, but most cocaine used by teens in the US is inhaled in powder form. It's worth remembering that the teen's brain is a learning machine that can quickly master tasks, from playing baseball to performing calculus equations to doing drugs, but it has no inherent way of knowing which of these activities is safe and which is risky, which will lead to a life of happiness and which will lead to rehab. As is the case with other threats to adolescent development, parents are the first line of defense in protecting teens from drugs.